Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at what I guess you'd regard as an entry-level wine from the highly renowned Alsace wine producers Domaine Weinbach. This is their Pinot Blanc from 2021, so it's not a particular vineyard designate wine, it's just a varietal wine. As I've said in previous videos, Weinbach, producer with a long history, dating back to 1619. They see the foundation of the estate as a monastery by the Capuchin monks. It came into the hands of the current owners, the Fala family, in 1898, and today Catherine and her sons Theo and Eddie run the winery. And they have a very straightforward philosophy, really. They refer to it as a tripod. There are three key factors in producing quality wine. So it's having great sites, easy to say when you have great sites, old vines, and keeping yields low. On top of that, they have their philosophy of winemaking or grape growing using biodynamic practices, something they've been certified for since 2005 and started working with in 1998. Everything's also organically farmed as well, and they're certified for that too. And then in the winery, they have an approach of minimal intervention, as you know, with as few interventions as possible, just to preserve the lovely character of the high quality fruit that they've produced into the wine. So the wine is labelled as a Pinot Blanc, so you'd assume the grape variety was Pinot Blanc. In this case, that's not true, though, or not completely true. This is in fact 70% of a grape variety called Auxerrois, with 30% of Pinot Blanc in there. Auxerrois, I suppose in the past stages, was confused for Pinot Blanc. It's thought to be a crossing derived from Pinot Noir, whereas Pinot Blanc is thought to be a mutation of Pinot Noir, so a different origin there. Auxerrois is often quite complementary to Pinot Blanc, in that it's slightly softer in terms of acidity, it's richer, it has more when low yielding, it can be quite sort of rich and quite musky in its fruit style. And surprisingly, it's completely legal that this wine, which is predominantly Auxerrois, is labelled as a Pinot Blanc. In fact, Alsace wine law would allow you to label a wine that you've made from 100% Auxerrois as Pinot Blanc. So unless the producer actually says on the label, there's no way of knowing what that blend is just from when you're buying it. Sometimes you'll actually see Pinot Blanc with Auxerrois written on the label. And sometimes confusingly, it's also referred to as Auxerrois Blanc or Pinot Auxerrois. So yes, a conundrum. But nonetheless, I think what we'll find here is that with the low yields, this is a wine produced from Auxerrois quite deliberately, because they're wanting additional richness and roundness and that sort of musky aromas coming through there. So the wines here are entirely hand-picked. There's a gentle pressing using a pneumatic press. The juice is settled to allow all the solids to fall out, to allow you to ferment a very clean juice. Fermentation is encouraged with the ambient, the wild yeast that come in on the fruit, or are already perhaps operating in the vineyard during vintage time, in the winery during vintage time. The fermentations are allowed to progress at their own speed, so there's quite a long, slow ferment. It may not necessarily actually finish dry. Some of their top wines are still sweet at bottling. There is a minimal addition of SO2 used to allow the wines to travel and allow them to age, but that's the extent of that. So let's have a look at the wine and see what we think. There's quite a nice depth of colour, first of all. I mean, that's a medium yellow. It's a strawish yellow, more than a lemony yellow or something like that. And the aromas. Gosh, the aromas are rich and they are quite lifted. There's nice fruit. My first impression is that there's almost a limey fruit, but it's not so much limey, it's more floral, There are notes of peach, of pear, high-toned blossom notes. Almost a sort of a rich perfume there. Very impressive, much more than I was expecting from a Pinot Blanc, because Pinot Blanc is quite a neutral variety normally. So let's have a taste. On the palate again, rather than being a soft, lean or sharp Pinot Blanc, this is medium-bodied. It almost feels as if it had, as if it has some phenolic bite, a little tiny touch of tannin. It's not harsh, but there is an almost sort of sherbety texture to the wine. There are those sort of lifted, musky, slightly sort of muscatty, sort of grapey sort of notes there. I suppose it's more sort of like floral blossom, that sort of high-tone, delicate perfumed note. But there's a richness, there's a core of I suppose it's the phenolic note on it is making me think of pear. There's that sort of richness. It's not a hugely flavoursome wine. The flavours don't last particularly well at the end. There's not a massive sharp acidity to allow the flavours to continue on a long finish. I mean, they're lasting quite well for a wine labelled as Pinot Blanc, or even for an Auxerrois. The alcohol seems reasonably balanced. It's not closing up the finish. It's not, as I say, it's not a particularly long finish, and it does fade a little. The alcohol's at 13.5%, so it's giving a bit of weight and it's adding to the weight and roundness of the mid palate. Yeah, I mean, this is an incredibly good Pinot Blanc. It's still maybe not the most exciting wine you'll come across. It's got balance, it's got body, it will age for 3 or 4 years quite happily. One of the pointers of Auxerrois is it will become more sort of honeyed and rich as it ages. But it doesn't have sort of precise acid that will sort of cut through for sort of creamy dishes or that sort of thing. I mean, this would go nicely alongside sort of salads with fruit, those sort of things. But really quite impressive given what you'd normally expect from a Pinot Blanc. So thank you very much for watching. This has been Domaine Weinbach's 2021 Pinot Blanc. I hope you've found the video interesting. I hope you'll follow our channel, and I do hope you'll join us again soon. Bye now.